Um, here you go. I guess we can do a quick intro. Welcome, guys, to the SIG Compute weekly meeting, October 8th. Yeah, please add yourself to the attendee list. And if you're new, please introduce yourself, but I don't see anyone new. And yeah, Lee has the first agenda item.
Yeah, thank you. Andrew introduced it in the previous Qvert community call as well. But it's something I've wanted to talk about for a couple of weeks now. But yeah, it's hopefully pretty self-explanatory from the enhancement retro that we had a couple of weeks ago. Folks kind of raised a few concerns about SIG compute being asked to um, be the center of the universe for the enhancement flow, and also having to own um, quite a lot of the code base still. I previously suggested introducing sub-projects to potentially break things out a little bit, but that was rejected. So this attempt is introducing two separate SIGs, one to break out the kind of enhancement ownership and the VEP process kind of ownership out of SIG compute, into SIG architecture, and just that a kind of like larger piece around the actual architectural consistency of the project and everything like that would all sit within there. And then to a lesser extent, a SIG control plane, then breaking out some of the code ownership for API controller, operator, etc., that kind of code out from compute. There's been some back and forth in the PR already that's been really good. It's a very it's in a very draft-like state still at the moment. Haven't really pushed it forward. But yeah, if folks have thoughts on this on the call, I'd appreciate it. Or just want to hit it later in the week, hit the PR later in the week, that would also be cool. It would be nice to kind of either get this progressed in the next couple of weeks, or closed out as something that we don't want to kind of take any further. Yeah, so any thoughts on the general kind of approach from the call?
From my point of view, we should go ahead. I mean, I see only benefits from this. We need to separate this common part and make sure that other SIGs participate in both an API and controllers, and I mean all of the things that is shared. We need people, more eyes, and not just SIG compute. And then SIG compute will be able to finally focus on what it actually needs to focus on. What bothers me is that I'm not entirely sure how this physical separation will happen. I mean, there are certain directories that are common, and they're like in subdirectories. How are we going to manage this? That is entirely not clear. But I saw that Lee, you have a clear vision of how to do it. So
I wouldn't say it's a clear vision, but we can definitely have nested kind of owners files and potentially carve things up. It's not going to be perfect to start with, and ultimately some of like a lot of these paths are still um, core approval or SIG compute only. And it's going to take time to kind of break things down and separate things logically. Well, bear with me 2 seconds. Sorry, the kids just got home and decided to charge in the office. Yeah, the eventual state that we're going to end up in will have clearer kind of lines of ownership, but yeah, it might be a while until we get there. But I think it's technically feasible, like possible to do with the owner's files and things that we've done in the past.
To me, the permissions on the repo is just a small detail. Like if we have approvers or whatever in those SIGs, we're going to trust them and we're going to tell them, like, don't approve stuff that you shouldn't approve, and it doesn't have to be like strictly enforced everywhere. That's just my opinion. Federico, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, no. For for the owner files for Virst API Virst controller, it's pretty clear how we can do that. I cannot see how, for example, storage stuff, which are generally under /package/storage, and all the stuff are there. So there could be more complicated to separate API controller and operator. But yeah, I mean it's probably will be day by day job. Just want to share this.
For network and storage, because they've already like separated their implementations out, like you said, it actually makes life a lot easier. It's in instances where those implementations are still like within the core controller or operator packages and stuff. That's the kind of more finicky case. We're not looking for this. Well, I'm not suggesting that this new SIG control plane group kind of have ownership over all those implementations that have already been separated for network, storage, or like instance types does the same thing. It's more the kind of core kind of parts of those components that would be maintained and looked after by this group, and the kind of the general patterns and approaches within those components as well would be overseen and kind of mandated by that group, as well as this new SIG architecture group, I guess, to some extent. So yeah, it's not necessarily if things have already been broken out that's going to cause problems. It's the stuff that's still embedded.
Federico, you're not a mute, man.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I didn't read any kind of objections there. Do we know if there's any kind of pushback from people from like private conversations or like?
No pushback. I've been taking it slow just because of the Israeli holidays. Like I just want to give folks time to see it and to react. That's all. I'm personally going to be away from the end of the month for some time, so I'd like to get at least this portion merged and started in some way, shape, or form within the next 2 to 3 weeks, if that's cool. So yeah, I can keep this as an agenda item for next week because hopefully Itamar and folks will be back then as well. And I know Ed's already commented on it as well, so hopefully that'll give them time to kind of come back in and I can start filling out this PR a little bit more in the charters because it is really, really basic at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good to me.
Cool. Okay. Thank you, guys.
All right. Want to move on to the next topic, LA?
Yeah, I just wanted to share a work in progress design doc that is related to the DRA implementation. I'm not sure if I'm able to share screen. Actually, my permissions on the Zoom app is twisted. Would someone be able to share a document? I paste in the link in the chat.
I can try.
Sure, that will be very helpful.
If it ever opens. Sorry, almost there.
Okay.
Share. Is that the one?
Yes. So if
Okay.
you can scroll down to the usage example.
Should I see that in the?
It's not in the,
Okay.
yeah. Just a little bit more down. Yes,
Usage example.
that,
Found it.
yes, that's the one. Perfect. So yeah, thank you for sharing. The idea here is that when the word controller creates the word launcher pod, it will define an environment variable for the resource claim that was created. And in that resource claim, it expects a request name and attribute, and that attribute is put here in the configuration. And what this contract means is when the allocation is done, put the pre-fill the environment variable with the value of this attribute. So when the word launcher starts, it knows what environment variable to look for, and it will automatically run without having to look for the information through VMI status. So this was one of the things that was expressed in the web review process, that it will be helpful to come up with something like this, but it was too short a cycle to do this. So for beta, I'm thinking that this is something that will help simplify a lot of the implementation work around the DRA status fields. I wanted to bring this up here if folks have thoughts, opinions, concerns. Now would be the time.
So then, so this is basically going to replace the annotations, right?
So for DRA, we don't rely on annotations. For DRA, right now we have a VMI status field, and because the VMI status is available in the word launcher, we use that to generate the DOM XML.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but if you have a DRA controller for a network device, then it could potentially replace the annotation and make all the DRA drivers, utilize just the environment variables.
But the environment variable is coming from the API.
Yes, it is coming from the API, and it will be populated by a kubelet.
By kubelet?
Yes, in this case.
Yeah, so that part is not clear to me. How is this going to be allocated by kubelet?
So kubelet already has the view of what those attribute values are, right? So let's take in the example here, it's the PCI root attribute or the MDEV UUID. So as soon as a pod lands on the kubelet and the allocation happens, those attributes for that device will be visible to kubelet. In the case of the network device, things like, well, networking DRA attributes, right? So there is a special field in resource claim status where you have other network related things like hardware address or IP address. Those all things will be visible from the API to kubelet. And then because it's available in the kubelet, you can have kubelet populate these environment variables just like how it populates secret values or a config map value as an environment variable through downward API.
Okay. But for example, why not use NRI for this?
You can use NRI if you want to. So for example, CDI already has a way to populate the environment variables there, right? The problem is that in order to isolate a specific device in the whole chain, you can see here that you need at least 3 or 4 level of indentation to find out what device you are looking for, right? And
Right.
that is really complicated. So it would make your environment variable really, really complex. In this particular case, you can define your own environment variable. So for all intents and purpose, you can say name of the environment variable is pgpu A or pgpu B, and you know easily that A refers to the first device that I'm going to generate in the DOM XML. So basically, this simplifies a lot of the contractual details. And the drivers, all the drivers need to do is make sure that the attribute is present. Everything else will be taken care of by the kubert stack. So you don't have to like define a specific requirement for the driver that you have to specify this environment variable, so on and so forth.
Yeah. I totally understand that. Yeah, I mean, the reason why I'm saying this is that we have an API, and that's a problem because in the case of NRI, if you know what you're looking for, you just will create it, and you don't need to have any API. But yeah, I hear you about the indirection.
Yeah. So my request would be, like, if you think this is not really going to be helpful, let's spend some time. I would really not want to put code in Kubernetes that is not going to eventually help out with all things DRA related in KubeVirt. So if there are any doubts or further discussion needed, let me know. We can sync up offline or create a separate meeting to dig into the details of this.
Yeah, I'm not saying that this is not going to be useful. I'm not. I just I was focused on something else. So it's
No. I mean to say that before code gets accepted and reviewed in Kubernetes, I think it would be important for us to align if this really simplifies things in KubeVirt, right? Once the code is there, and we are spending Kubernetes cycles to do this, and then in retrospect, it would be bad rep for us to realize that this is not that useful. So
yeah.
I think what I'm encouraging is some exclusive time on this doc to figure out the usefulness down the road.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you.
All right. I think that's all we have for today. If anybody has anything to talk about, please speak up now. All right. I guess we're done for today. Yep.
Yeah,
ahead.
so I think next week we must go over the webs, see what the process, sorry, what the progress is there, and if there are any blockers.
Yeah. Do we have a board for 1.8 already?
Oh yeah, for 1.8? No, for 1.7 we have.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks all. Bye.